this reading light arrived today, and it had this component here which converts AC to DC power, which I cut off. When I put it into the van, however, without it, it fried the LED. So I've just taken this LED out of a broken puck light. I'm going to try and rewire it into this one. It has this little black component here, and I'm thinking that that's doing a similar thing where it's limiting the amount of power that can go through this bulb. So if that is the case, then hopefully just wiring this in straight will work. Okay, so I got it all mounted up, and I bet you can tell what that means. My rewiring actually did work. So I'm going to have to go back and take a look. I think this is now a 3-watt bulb instead of a 1-watt. I'm not entirely sure about that. It's one LED in there, but I'll have to go take a look because I took that out of a broken puck light like the ones up there. But I now have this positionable lamp, so it can be basically aimed anywhere when I'm sitting in bed and reading, or if I'm sitting on the couch as well. I think this is going to be a really, really useful thing to have. And it's just got the switch right there to turn it on and off. I ordered myself a backup camera here, and I'm going to be installing it. The idea for this is just that I want to have a little bit more control when I'm backing up. I'd really like to be able to see behind me, because this thing, obviously you can't see through it, and I'm just not used to driving such a big vehicle. So I've done parallel parking and stuff in Vancouver when I picked it up with the mirrors, but this is just going to give me some extra peace of mind and added safety on the road. There is already a backup light installed at the top of the van. Don't know why it's there, you can't see what it's pointing at, but it will be helpful for the camera. I removed the light and widened the hole for the wires so that I'll be able to fit the video cables through. The light is grounded to the metal bracket that holds it, so what I did was I took the negative lead from the camera and ground it to the same spot. Then I spliced the positive lead into a wire that goes up to this backup camera. Once the initial wiring is done, everything about this camera system is plug and play. I remounted the light with the camera directly beneath it. Then I hooked up the power to my leisure battery because it's nice and handy at the back to do a test to see whether or not it turned on when I put the car in reverse.
Yep. It works. What? What? It works.
Sweet. Can I see? I carefully bundled up the excess power line and connected it to the video cord. Then I ran the video cord through a channel that exists above the roll-up door and down the side to the bottom of the vehicle. I had to drill a hole at the very corner of that channel on the outside of where the roll-up door lands so that I could get the cord underneath the vehicle to run it up to the cab. The video cord wasn't long enough to reach the cab, so I bought another cord and a female-female connector to make one longer cord. I put silicone around both edges and then covered it in heat shrink so that this is a completely waterproof seal because it will be on the underside of the vehicle. So the video cord has been run up to the front of the vehicle, and last night I installed this power cable that brings power to the monitor, but I tapped into the wrong wire here. The blue one is actually the one that I want to tap into, which is for the reverse. This plugs in down here and indicates when I'm in reverse. So I need to switch this out, and I'll leave this in place because it might have damaged the wire. Or maybe I'll splice a new one in. The other thing that I did was I disabled the backup camera because every time I was doing a test it beeped, and fair enough, the neighbors complained, which I totally understand. Plus, once this video system is in place, I'll be able to see back there, so I won't need the backup alarm. And also, that alarm really, really would have killed my stealth. By the way, because I'm sticking this vehicle in reverse and I'm on a slope, and the emergency brake doesn't work, this is my new emergency brake, and I'm just keeping the pedal basically for the brake in place using this vice grip. Well, I finally managed to get this thing hooked up and working. I'm in reverse right now. If I go into neutral, this comes off. If I go up here, again, and in park, that should also come off.
Something else to note is, let's put it into reverse here, is that this power does, when I take the key out of the ignition, turn off. So this is me turning the key into the accessory position. So the engine isn't on, but I still get to see that, which is good. Unfortunately, this light means that I'm not out of the woods yet. I've tapped into power which will always be on, and that's not good, because then the monitor will continue to draw. So it looks like there's a spare place here where it says ignition. So I've hooked up the positive lead of this cable here directly into that, and I think this is now working. Turn the key and see what happens. So the reason that this is a better test than using the monitor is because the monitor, the camera will turn off when you go out of reverse, or turning the key also kills that power. So it wasn't showing up on the monitor. This way I know for sure that when I turn my key like this, that there's no draw going through this wire here. Now I need to do one final test to make sure that I haven't messed up anything with my rewiring. So I'm going to turn the key into... Yeah, okay, interesting. So you see that? Maybe you can't see it on the camera, but I could definitely see that right now the state of the screen changes. So it's actually, the screen is on, but there's no video feed coming in. That's really interesting. So now if I take and shift into reverse, we now get the image. There's one final problem. And that is that if you look at this carefully, you can see that the camera is actually upside down. This is obviously the back of the vehicle, and you can see here these lines are supposed to represent, backup safety. This camera is supposed to be mounted down at the bottom of the vehicle looking up, but I've have it at the top of the vehicle looking down, because here I can see my corners. This is what I need to park. So this is a bit of a problem here. Now, it wouldn't be too big an issue, because if this didn't flip things. So let me explain that. This camera is designed to flip the image so that it looks like you're using a mirror, as you would when you're backing up. So you can see here that there's this little speck here. That is a toolbox. And if you were looking at this in the mirror, this would appear to be on the right-hand side of the vehicle. But that's the toolbox over there on the left-hand side. Luckily, there's a solution, and that is to take this whole thing and flip it upside down. Now, you see that this is now on the right-hand side of the vehicle here. So now when I'm backing up, I just need to get a little bit used to the idea that, like this way it would kind of make more sense, but this way I'm still looking at it and it's still going to work the way that I kind of need it to. This right here is where the cord goes into the cab, and I've drilled a hole wide enough for that head to go through, but because it's so big, I was worried about this cable rubbing, so I've just cut some armoring here and held it in place with zip ties so that it's going to be against the metal and not the cord. This little bundle of wires here is just that video cable rolled up because it was slightly longer than it needed to be. So that'll keep it nice and neat and out of the way. So the wire comes from the fuse box underneath here, up through this little part here. All the connectors are right here where I can easily attach new ones if I ever put in a dash cam or anything like that. And then they run up the side, ultimately, to the monitor. I've decided to mount the monitor up in the corner here. A number of reasons. I wanted to mount it on the dash, but it would have interfered with my sight line. Up here, it doesn't interfere with anything except looking at that ugly speaker. So tucking it up out of the way there just seems to make a lot of sense. So right now, I'm still in reverse. If I flick this over here, see that this comes on, and that little speck there that we discussed earlier, that is still that toolkit, which is down at the end there.